first time I'm doing a reading wrap-up. I read a lot of books this month. Readers and writers, welcome to my May wrap-up video, my first ever wrap-up video, which is kind of exciting for me, and I got a lot of books to cover. I actually read a lot this month, and I think it's because I was rereading so much. For those of you who don't know, I am an Audible junkie. I cannot wait for Ontario to open up so I can go to the library and get a library card so I can stop spending so much money on Audible, because I've just I don't know, I couldn't find my card, I never went to get it, I just kept buying audiobooks, and now I need my library card and the temporary card doesn't work on Libby. Anyways, I'm quite a slow reader off of the page, but I really love being told a story. And for the first time, really, I have noticed a pretty serious downside to consuming a book via audiobook, because the experience is directed for you. And that was when I read Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. Now, I also read some reviews first, and I think that might have tainted my view of the book, but overall I did enjoy the book. Magic for Liars follows a character named Ivy Gamble, who is a private investigator and whose twin sister is magic. She is not magic, she somewhat resents this, and when she is approached for a job at the school her sister teaches at to solve a murder, she's a little apprehensive, but the money's good and she takes the job. Now, overall, the world is pretty basic. The characters are okay. I think for me, the biggest downside to this book, and I'll talk about the good stuff after, was the narration was a little bit whiny. And I wonder if I would have thought that if I hadn't read a review saying the main character and the narrator were quite whiny, or if I had read it myself. That's kind of my biggest thing. It's like, I felt like the whole book, I'm like, okay, basically, this is a story about Lily and Petunia if they were twins, and Petunia became a private investigator. She just cannot get over the fact that she's a squib, which is and is not fair, I guess, because maybe it was the narrator's choice on how she was portraying the character of Ivy Gamble that made her so whiny. Because one of my best friends also read this book and she did not get that, but she read it off the page. She didn't listen to the audiobook, which is why I think that. But cool thing about Magic for Liars is that it's at a magic school and it's not about the students. Like, the students are present and they are important to the story, but the main character is Ivy, who's older, and the teachers. And it made me really feel like I want to write a Hogwarts but the teachers series. So if that exists, please let me know. Overall, Magic for Liars, I rated 3 stars. I would rate the narration probably at 2.5. I think I would even probably rate the book at 2.5 or 3 stars, but just, again, because of the narration. One of the books that I reread this month was The Roommate by Rosie Danan, and I reread it because last month I read The Intimacy Experiment, which is the second book in this series. The Roommate is a romance novel that follows the main character, Claire, as she leaves her socialite family, travels across the country, and goes to stay with... I forget his name. Whatever. Some douchey guy who she feels like is the perfect guy for her and she's in love with him. I mean, of course she's not actually in love with him, but she thinks she is. And she flies across the country to spend the summer living with him and getting him to fall in love with her. And when she arrives, he tells her that he's rented out his room to a random person off of Craigslist and he's going to tour with his band all summer. Now, Claire, who's too proud at the beginning to go home right away and face her family, stays and ends up learning that her new roommate, Josh, is a porn star, and he has this whole legal battle happening about his contract, and he only has a few things available to him that he could do in the business. One of the things he still has the rights to is his voice. So Claire has this idea they should start an online platform teaching women how to have good sex and teaching couples how to communicate better. And it's pretty cool. It was a pretty good book, but the second one, The Intimacy Experiment, was better, which follows Josh's ex and one of his very good friends, Naomi, as she reconnects to her Judaism and falls in love with a rabbi. It was so fun. Ex-porn star and a rabbi love story, sign me up. So these 2 books I cannot recommend enough. The second one is definitely better, but you're not going to get the same punch, I think, out of the second one if you don't read the first one. The Roommate, I gave 3 stars, and The Intimacy Experiment, I gave 4 stars. Definitely, even if you're not going to read The Roommate, you're looking for a new romance novel, read The Intimacy Experiment. It is great. Another new book I read this month that I'm not going to talk about too much is the first book in the Mistborn series, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I'm not going to talk about it in this video because it's going to have its own video in a little series that I'm thinking about working on, but I mean, it was better than I expected. I know this book has a lot of hype, and I've watched some of Brandon Sanderson's videos, and I'm not quite sure. I'm going to talk about this in my later video about this book specifically, but I was pretty turned off by him, and kind of read this to try and like justify or make my feelings about him illegitimate. And still kind of on the fence, but I'm going to talk about that in a later video. A couple books that I reread this month were my own books, actually, Magic Required and Dominion Required, because I've been writing my third novel. It is its first in its own series, but Lachlan, the main character of Magic Required, is in it, and there is a lot of crossover information. And I did find that rereading my books really helped affirm to me that I can write a good book. Because this book, I don't know why, my Dyson Project book has been so tough. Actually, I know exactly why it's been so tough. It's because I started writing it a really, really long time ago. So note for all the writers out there, like if you've been writing something for like 10 or 15 years, I honestly almost wished I completely abandoned my original manuscript and started from scratch, because I think I would have gotten a better novel. I think I still would have ended up where I am now with it, but I think I would have gotten a better novel faster if I had pretty much like maybe read it, gone through the plot points, and then started from scratch, because I have improved so much from when I started writing it, but there were so many things that I had grown so attached to over the last 15 years of friggin' having this book in my head. Anyways, Magic Required, if you don't know, my first novel, follows the story of a Celtic demigod named Lachlan Allele as he tries to seek a redemption he is not sure he deserves. He starts to get prophetic dreams of strangers in deadly accidents, and as he starts to save them, he thinks that it's the old world telling him he is safe to be around again. When one of those dreams leads him to Zamila, the girl who got away, he thinks that he won't hurt her, and he's wrong. Can you tell that I've done that a lot of times? Dominion Required, the second book in the Lachlan series, picks up about 6 weeks after Magic Required, and even like as I was listening to them, I still am like very proud of myself. I love these books. I think I wrote some pretty good books, and you know, my Goodreads score would agree. So if you've read it and you haven't rated me anywhere, feel free to do that. But I've definitely learned. Reading that and thinking about what I've learned since I wrote those books, I think is going to really help me when I'm editing my Dyson novel, which I have been doing over the past week or so. Edit number like 8023. And the last book that I'm going to talk about in this May wrap-up video is The Hunter by LJ Shen. This book, oh man, it's a romance novel. And it made me realize something. It made me realize why I love romance novels. And I don't know why it took me this long to figure it out, but romance novels, like, super tropey. Of course, we all know they're super tropey. But if you want to learn how to write a good character, read romance novels. Like, these novels, the character development is unreal. So this is what happened. So I'm looking for a new romance novel, whatever. This one pops up. Okay, I'm going to read it. I listened to maybe like 2.5 hours of it, and this was last weekend. I started it last Friday. I'm going to listen to like 2.5 hours of it. Cool, great. Friday night, I'm like, I'm going to have such a productive weekend. I have nothing scheduled. I'm going to write. I'm going to get so much writing done this weekend. It's going to be awesome. Okay, wake up Saturday morning, 6:45 a.m., no alarm, feeling refreshed. You know, I'm like early to rise, gets worms or whatever. I woke up so early and refreshed, you know, let me just lie in bed for a little bit and listen to a bit of this book before I get up and start my day of hardcore writer Hannah. 2 hours later, I was like, maybe I should get out of bed. 6 hours after that, when I'm just walking around my house, going from chair to chair, maybe I should do something else. And I listened to the rest of the book on Saturday. It was so good. So basically, the book follows these two characters, Hunter and Sailor, as they're thrown into this ridiculous situation and fall in love. And it's super tropey, but holy shit is it fun. Like, it was so fun. I love the characters. I love their development. I also loved just like how gross of a human Hunter is. He's so horrible. He's so demeaning to women. Like, he is just the worst. And watching him through this kind of like understand and change and like, oh gosh, it was just so fun. I definitely think that there are a lot of people who might read this book and be very turned off by Hunter as a character in the beginning of the novel. I don't know why. I mean, I feel like usually I am that person, but I just thought he was so funny. Just the jokes that he made, the like self-deprecation, and oh gosh, it was just so fun. So the basic premise is that Hunter accidentally makes a sex tape, and his billionaire father tells him that he has, as punishment, if he doesn't want to be written out of their will, he has to spend 6 months celibate and sober. And the person who's going to watch over him doing this is the daughter of a very legitimate businessman, who's like a mob guy or something, who wants to go to the Olympics as an archer and is like super stern and serious. And she's gonna live with him and basically be his like babysitter and give the father reports. So of course they start sleeping together, they fall for each other, whatever. All the beats of a romance novel, but man, let me tell you, so fun. So fun. I did feel like the one criticism I have to this book is that I aged up the characters in my head because they were fresh out of high school. Like Hunter was 19 and Sailor was 18, I think. And that just felt like a little, I don't know. I didn't love that. So when they were talking about being juniors and seniors in high school, I just like imagined them being in their 3rd and 4th year of university and that they were 4 years older than they were. So that's what they are in my head, and I absolutely loved that book. It is one in a series of the Boston Bells, I think. So that's one of the books that I'm planning on reading this month. And if you have any other suggestions for me, things that you think I would like, please drop them in the comment section. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Pretty sure I gave The Hunter 4 stars. Gotta check my Goodreads. I've been doing this thing where I'm trying to write a review on Goodreads for every single book that I read. And it's been great when I'm going back to try and like think about these books and what I thought of them when I'm shooting these videos. Yeah, I did. I rated it 4 stars. There is another book that I haven't written a review for yet that I read last month that's also going to be in the same series that Mistborn is, and it's Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. Oh my god. So right now I have a planned 4 videos in this upcoming series that's going to be like kind of a bit of self-reflection and just I mean the legitimacy behind my disliking any white male author in the fantasy genre for no reason before I've even read their books. Not fair. Not fair. So that's why I read Brent Weeks, and that's why I read Brandon Sanderson, because I was like, I hate these guys, and there's no reason for me to hate these guys. I gotta read their books before I can just, you know, really feel justified in my hatred for no reason. So that series is coming up soon. I'm gonna have a very short couple videos of other white male authors in the fantasy genre. If you have any ideas for authors that I shouldn't hate in the fantasy genre for no reason, drop those books below because I want to read them. I don't want to hate these people for no reason. It's not fair. Anyways, I hope you guys are all happy and healthy. Let me know what you're reading and what you think maybe I should be reading. You know, my mouth is like a little dry. And is your mouth dry? You're probably dehydrated. Go get some water.